All right, so the most annoying thing that I think, ever experienced or experienced in a long time has been every time this refreshes, we have to log in. I can't express how annoying that is. I mean, I'm sure you guys realize if you're following along how annoying it is that you have to log in every single time the hot loader refreshes. So what we're going to do right now is integrate a library called Redux Persist. And what it does is rather than storing the Redux state or the app-wide state in memory, which gets lost every time the page refreshes, it's going to use the local storage browser component, I guess. So local storage is if you're in an app here, you can type local storage and it will show you your local storage for this page. So it's different on each, I think it's controlled by domain. So what we're going to do is basically integrate a way for local storage to store the app-wide state. So we have auth.token stored in the auth reducer, and we're going to be storing that into local storage, and I'll show you guys the difference here. So just keep in mind what this currently is. We have Swagger access token, and that is it. We're going to make it so that this now has the entire store of our application. So each time we log in, or each time the page refreshes, it will say, oh, you have a token, because it was saved in the storage from last time. So to do this, let's Control-C out of our React app here, and we're going to run npm install -- save redux persist. And then in store directory here, we're going to create a new file, and it's going to be called configure store.js. And now currently, I believe it's in the index file. Not that index. Let's close these pages here. In the root directory's index.js file, we're actually creating the store here, and we're using that in this provider. And so what we need to do is we need to basically, instead of building the store here, we're going to build it in this file now. And so just like when we built it before, we need to import create store from Redux. And from Redux persist, we need to import persist store and persist reducer from redux persist. And then we're going to import storage from redux persist /lib/storage. Now, a note about the storage component that we're importing here, or the library, is that if you're using the web, it's going to use the local storage property that I just showed you in the console. However, if it's a React native application, it will use something different specific for the platform. So now what we need to do is we need to import root reducer from index. So if I look here, we're doing the same thing. We're applying the name root reducer there. So let's go ahead and import root reducer from, And then we're in the store directory. So in here, it's going to be from reducers, and it will default to the index page. And now we need to create a persist config. So to do this, we're just going to write const persist config equals, and it's going to be an object. The key is going to be root, and the second property is going to be called storage, and the value is going to be the storage library that we imported, so we're just going to write storage. And now we're going to, I guess, instantiate the persist reducer. So const persisted reducer equals persist reducer with persist config and the root reducer. And now all that we have to do is export these things. So export default, and we're going to use an arrow function here. I'm going to say let store equals create store, and in this instance we're going to use our persisted reducer. And we're going to create another local scope variable called persister, and it is going to be persist store, and it's a function, and it's going to take in our store that we just created. And then we're going to return both store and persister. So we're going to save this here, and that is all we need to do in the configure store file. So now what we need to do is go into our index.js file here, and here's where we're going to change it a little bit. We no longer need this right there. We're going to have to import the store and persister from store slash configure store. So let's import store and persister from store slash configure store. We're going to delete this. We no longer need that. And in fact, we can get rid of create store here. Although the apply middleware, we've just got rid of that. So what we have to do is when we create the store here, we also need to apply the middleware. So we're going to import apply middleware from Redux as well, and we'll import thunk. So create store and apply middleware from Redux, and then I'm going to copy this, import thunk from Redux thunk, and the thunk was for us to be able to make API calls and then dispatch the results of those. And then so we can get rid of this and this, and then we're going to just copy this, and in create store, this is our persisted reducer, and then we'll also pass in apply middleware, and then we will get rid of that. And now the one thing that we have to do here is import persistGate from Redux persist slash integration /react. One final step, and it should work. If there's anything we're missing, I guess we'll have to find it. But I think this is everything. We need to wrap the app component in a persist gate. So I just imported persist gate from Redux persist, and here we actually need to use it. It's a regular component. Let's set loading to null, and then the persister is going to be the persister that we've just integrated in our configure store. I'm going to close it, and then down here I will actually end. Whoop. Alright, so I think we're good. Let's save this and run npm start. If we get any errors, we will work through them. Persister is not exported from configure store. Oh, but it is. It is definitely exported. There's actually one thing that I think I can see here. Where we are returning an arrow function that then returns store and persister. What I'm going to do, it's a little bit of the old switcheroo here. We're going to import configure store from this file. And then we are going to set const store and persister equals configure store. And that is a function, and I actually need to copy this and move it down under the last import statement. Now I'm going to save this. And we've got our app back. Now this is good. So far so good. Let's see what happens when we log in and go to inspect. And in console, I'm going to write local storage. And we've got our persisted storage here. And now if I refresh, we're still logged in. Yes! Alright, it's been a while since I specifically wrote persisted storage code, so I was kind of wondering whether anything was going to go wrong, or if much has changed, since I've done this. I think it went relatively smooth. Alright, so now we've got a persisted store, which means that our store is actually cached by the browser. So now we can move forward without having to log in on every page refresh. And this, I guess, is the intended behavior, for a web application anyway. So we've also learned something that we'll be using a ton in the future as well. As you guys move forward in your careers and start doing this for a living, you will now know how to write a persist gate. And it's not something that you do every day. It's, maybe around 1% of the application. And so you're writing, other React code like render methods and component should update and component will update and all that stuff. You're writing that stuff a lot more than you're writing persisters. Yeah. All right. So in the next video, I guess we'll get started on the tables.